Hello, welcome to In Sequence, a comics podcast for everyone. My name is Matt, and today we have one panelist.
Hi, I'm Scout. I'm your lone additional panelist today. The lone gunman.
It is me and Scout. Nope, not combining those names. That's where I went in my head. Not happening. You can figure it out, listener. Yeah, today it's just me and Scout. We do not have Jillian or Robin. They are busy being human beings, and Scout and I are busy reading comics.
Mm-hmm, it's true.
Famously a thing that humans don't do.
No, not human beings. Simply for this. When you read a comic, it decategorizes you as a human being. You're not a human anymore, actually. You're some other thing.
Today we're talking about the Department of Truth, Volume 1, The End of the World, and it is our first spooky season book.
Ooh.
We have listed on the website at the bottom on every page, there's a list of what we're reading next. And you will see that for the month of October, we have 3 episodes. The first is this one, The Department of Truth. The second is Creepshow. We're reading some very specific issues, and if you click on that link, it tells you the issues that we're reading. So just another page on the website that I made. And then we're also reading the Triangle Agency TTRPG rulebook. I said in the in-sequence chat in Discord, we are immediately testing the limits of the word comics.
Yes, absolutely. I was sort of giving my parents the rundown on the spooky season episodes because they were asking the other night, and I was trying to explain what Triangle Agency was, and my dad was like, so does it have comic? Is it a comic? And I was like, well,
there are pictures and they tell a story.
So is it just words? No, there are pictures.
Yeah.
So I'm sure we will get into that when it comes up. I'm excited about that one.
Yeah, I'm excited to read it. Let's get into the front matter for the Department of Truth.
Whoop.
The Department of Truth, Volume 1, The End of the World, is written by James Tynion IV. The artist is Martin Simmonds. Letterer is Aditya Bidikar. The designer is Dylan Todd. And the editor is Steve Fox. This book is a part of Tynion's Image Comics imprint, Tiny Onion. Just a general content warning on this episode. This book is a horror book to begin with, and there is, of course, violence, but also goes very deep into conspiracies. That is what it is about, in fact, as well as far-right white nationalism. There's child peril involved, as well as some serious gun violence. So if you don't want to hear about any of those, or you don't want to read any of those, skip this one. Yeah. We'll catch you next time. The Department of Truth is set in a world where truth is literally malleable. If enough people believe in a thing, it becomes true, and therefore has been true all along. In Volume 1, our lead, Cole Turner, is recruited to the titular Department of Truth, a secret American agency that uses espionage, propaganda, and murder to shape the truth by shaping what people believe. Cole is an FBI agent studying far-right white nationalist communities, but also has an interest in related conspiracies because he was caught up in a satanic panic-related incident when he was a child. He takes the job with the department not just because he wants to help save the world, but also because he sees this as his chance to find the star-faced man that he saw when he was a kid. The one he knows isn't real, but that the adults around him might have believed into existence. The Department of Truth, Volume 1, The End of the World, collects the first 5 issues of the series, and each issue covers a new conspiracy, including the JFK assassination, flat earth theory, crisis actors, reptilians, the Denver International Airport, and, of course, the Satanic Panic. With that, Scout, I would just love your general thoughts on the book. I know you read this today.
I did.
How'd you feel about it?
I think the note that I wrote is that it left me feeling strange, which isn't a criticism or a compliment. Mm-hmm. It's kind of just a neutral statement.
Yeah.
I think there is a lot of really interesting stuff here. I love the way that the art looks. I think that it is tackling the concept of conspiracy theories in an interesting way that I think sometimes works for me, sometimes doesn't, but overall had a good time reading it.
Yeah. The first time I read this was for the TWG Comics Club.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that, I think it was Zeno that put it on our list. And in fact, I did ask Zeno to be on this episode, and they couldn't be here, but they did give us a little audio note that I will put right here in the episode.
Hi there, this is Zeno. My official take on Department of Truth, Volume 1. It's a good book. It's a good book, and you should read it. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you for your thoughts, Zeno.
Thank you, Zeno, so much. They had put it on the list, and I don't think really many of us had heard about it, but I picked it up at a comic shop that I was checking out and was floored by it, frankly. I found it to be visually stunning. It is very much, there's incredible artwork here, to be clear, but also graphic design is something that this book is just knocking out of the park.
Yeah, hard agree there.
And also, I was worried that a book about conspiracy theories would be a little too much for me, given just like the state of the world and how conspiracy theories and white nationalism have like led to the thing we exist in. You know, this book originally came out in 2021. It's very much referencing the current state of the world.
Yeah.
And I was afraid that that would just amplify my feelings of hopelessness and anxiety and all of that. But honestly, I think that that stuff has unfortunately become so much a part of my daily life that this ended up just being like really good cosmic horror for me.
That makes sense to me. I can see that. I think I ended up going not necessarily the exact opposite, but kind of in a slightly different direction where because it feels so close to the mark, there's something about it that almost stresses me out a little more than I think it would have if I had read this like half a decade ago, but not in a way that I was like, oh, this is like really too bad. I wish I wasn't reading this right now. More just in a like, ooh, we are right on the edge there. Yeah, I think the thing that stuck out to me a lot is just the blurring of suggestibility and truth and what those two things are, and the way that the fiction here makes them sort of the same thing.
Yeah.
What really, like, we talk about the satanic panic here a lot. There's a lot of satanic panic stuff in this. And I was really reminded, especially like as we get sort of towards the back half of this first volume, the ways that they were talking about the things that sort of bring the conspiracies into reality, like the magical elements of it here just felt so close, not very different from stuff that like went on with the methods of the therapist that wrote one of the tentpole texts of the Satanic Panic. This is like a further reading, but it's a further listening. I really, really enjoyed the You're Wrong About podcast's episodes on the book Michelle Remembers, which is sort of like the thing that I'm referencing here about that. There's a lot more stuff there that they're better read on it than me, but all of that stuff really stuck out of like, wow, it feels so close to reality that it just feels weird to read.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's not necessarily a bad thing, just weird. There's a weird feeling. And I think it's cool for fiction to make you feel weird.
Yeah, it's doing the job of horror in that way. And like, this is the kind of horror that I can take, right? I can take really campy, cheesy, like, I don't know, we're going to do Creepshow in a couple weeks. And like, that's a kind of camp that I can handle. But like modern horror movies that are like actually scary, I can't do that stuff. I've gotten to the point where I can handle like slasher films because those kind of follow a script. But yeah, this was actually creepy in unique ways, I think. I also think that like you were talking about that blending of suggestibility and truth literally in the fiction, but that also extends to the art. The art goes in and out of these really defined panels, and then it will use various impressionist techniques or just blurring in general when you're not supposed to be 100% sure what's happening. You'll often see overlays of the star-faced man's star in pages that, I mean, I was reading it this time and I was like, oh, I didn't even notice that was there the first 2 times I read this. I mean, talk about like conspiracies, they're blending in subliminal messaging in here too.
True.
And often sometimes like I'm looking at, I don't know what page this is for you. It looks like page 26 in this volume. It's when they land the plane next to the ice wall. And so much is happening. There's a lot of action. You're like not quite sure what's going on. They're jumping pretty far between panels, and the art is kind of jumping in and out of like visibility. And then the thing that is clearest on the page, I mean, hard lines, is the lady in red with the X's in her eyes.
Yes, she is. It is really interesting the way that she tends to be really starkly defined in like any panel that she's in, and it feels very deliberate.
Yeah.
The use of the sort of the snowy environment in that sequence to really help with the muddying, and the chaos is really good too. Very excited to get more in depth on this artwork.
Yeah, I should say this first issue is Cole's recruitment, and he's gone to a flat Earth convention where he basically characters that are basically the Koch brothers try and recruit him into their conspiracy cult, and they take him on a private jet to quote unquote the end of the world, and they end up at the ice wall at the end of the world. After showing him a video that proves the moon landing was fake.
Yeah.
And their whole thing is they're a part of a group that wants to convince the world of this so that it becomes true. And Cole has not quite figured this out when he ends up at the ice wall at the end of the world. And so he's like disoriented and vomiting.
Yeah. Which I have a note. We don't have to get to it this second, but I have a note about the vomiting.
Yeah, go for it.
I have a lot of really good things to say about Martin Simmonds' art here. He can draw a lot of things really well. One thing that this artist cannot draw is people puking. Both of the times that Cole pukes through this first volume, I was like, that looks very silly.
It does look like he like put a paint streak and then like layered it behind his mouth.
Yeah, it feels like, which I sympathize with this. The artist couldn't find a reference of like someone hurling.
Yeah.
And so they were like, I gotta put this together, man. I don't know. I don't have my vomit reference.
Yeah. One of the early pages that I really love looks like it's page 21, where those like Koch brother replacements, you see their faces
in his glasses.
Cole's glasses.
And they're all fucked up.
Terrifying.
The scariest old men in the world. There's really a lot about them in that particular drawing that is reminiscent to the Star-Faced Man, like the teeth and sort of the elongation of the face. The whole sort of, even on humans, it's called the muzzle area, but like this zone between the cheeks that goes like from the nose to the chin. That whole zone is very much like a thing that I started associating with the Star-Faced Man a lot because of how exaggerated, like he almost has like horse teeth, the way that the Star-Faced Man looks. Yeah. And it's interesting that I did notice in a couple of different places, I feel like with some of the more villainous and nefarious characters that they were going for in the art, a exaggeration of that feature to sort of bring them all together, I think.
Yeah, if you look at page 23, there's like a group shot of all of the people cheering at the faked moon landing video.
There's one guy in there that's going like, and it's really stark there on that guy.
But all of them even have like a slight kind of lengthening of that area on their face. That's interesting. I hadn't noticed that, but I did feel that they were like as creepy as the Star-Faced Man, which is interesting that like that's where the lady in red shows up, because like the creepiness factor is both how clear she is, but also how normal she looks until she takes off her glasses. Yeah,
she does. She's got a very 40s, 50s movie star is like definitely feels like the thing that they're drawing on, like a Katharine Hepburn look or a Marilyn Monroe look.
Yeah.
With the headscarf and everything. And then she takes her glasses off and she's got fucked up X's.
What were some of the moments in this book that stood out to you?
I was a big fan of Cole in general, which probably will not come as that much of a surprise. I try to exemplify myself as a pathetic man enjoyer, and he feels like he falls right in there. He's a sopping wet. He's a little sopping wet throughout this whole thing, I think.
Scout, you liked the pathetic gay man in the book?
Yeah, I did. I did like the pathetic gay man. Who would have thought?
What I didn't know reading this the first time, I didn't realize that James Tynion had come out, and I didn't realize that he was also from Milwaukee.
Oh.
And he specifically says he wrote Cole to be himself.
Wow, self-insert.
Yeah, so it is absolutely a James Tynion self-insert.
Wow.
He doesn't look like him, but,
That's fun.
I think some of my favorite moments are like the big stinger moments, right? The moments they're trying to get you with. In the first issue, there's two of them. There's just like the 2-page spread of the giant ice wall with like planets in the background.
Yeah, I was really having a hard time figuring out what was going on that page. It wasn't until much later when they actually referred to it as an ice wall that I went back and I was like, oh, ice wall. That's what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the way that the plane is almost blocked out. It looks like it was cut out of a magazine and sort of pasted on top of that one. It's a great, even though I just said that I had trouble parsing it, it's a really great spread.
Yeah, it's really cool. I also didn't know what was going on, but I was kind of just like letting the book guide me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But also this entire issue is framed in like an interrogation almost that we find out is a job interview.
Mm-hmm.
And it ends with Cole asking who the guy is that's interviewing him. And he's like, oh yeah, I skipped that part. My name's Lee Harvey Oswald. I when I read that part, because it opens with like the kind of like blurry like interview of Lee Harvey Oswald.
Yeah, the
right
epilogue
after.
is also an interrogation.
Yeah. And I didn't quite understand that. And I got to this page, I was like, oh shit, this is like just conceptually, that's cool. You have a book about conspiracy theories and like the dad of the book is Lee Harvey Oswald.
Calling him the dad of the book, you're right, but it's really funny. This is my dad.
He's a fucked up dad, but
he's a fucked up dad. Yeah, I liked that moment. I think a lot of my favorite moments are driven by the visuals, because I just kept really getting pulled into the whole style, these messy and soft and hard, like playing a lot in soft and hard paintings. I really love the scene where they're getting pancakes, specifically because I just am really drawn into the repetition of the checkers on the page here.
Yeah.
With the big full like half spread. Not only is the checkerboard across the table, but it's also on the floor underneath them. It's bigger, so there's this great pattern repetition. I think the emotional beat that really hit me was definitely the scene when Cole has to do some dirty work and carry out some orders against some reporters. I was really, really struck by turning the page and seeing him crying as he holds the gun up.
Do they tell you in this volume that his husband is a reporter?
They do. They say at least that he's I think I got an idea that he was an editor instead of a reporter, but that might have been that they mentioned an editor, and so I got a little confused. But they do say that he works with the same newspaper that these guys worked with as well.
Okay. I can remember if that was here or volume 2, but yeah, the whole Cole and Matt thing generally is, I think, something that I also latched onto. I've read 4 volumes of this book, and I don't know. It's a gay couple in a book. I'm interested in how their lives go, but also like it's a easy way to insert myself in as a reader and find a reason to care about Cole and what's going on. And it ends up being the emotional core, and like his husband gets more and more involved in this story, and their relationship gets more and more involved in this story.
Ooh, interesting.
And I mean, it's fucked up. It's a horror book. It's not going to get better for these two, right?
It's not going to get better than this.
I don't know. That unsettles me. I love to have a happy ending, especially when it comes to some gay dudes. I haven't reached a resolution on any of it though, so I really don't know what's happening.
How many? Is it finished? Is it currently in progress?
It is currently ongoing. So they took a long break and they came back earlier this year.
Interesting.
And it is ongoing. I don't know how much more they have left, but I know it's like they're trying to reach a conclusion. And I know that there's a television adaptation that's being worked on in the background that James Tynion is involved in.
I think that this is a pretty good contender for an adaptation.
The thing that worries me about an adaptation of this book is that it would lose something visually. I think the way you do it is you make it a noir.
That's fun. Yeah. I feel like to be adapted, you would have to do, something that it's not going to look exactly like this does, but the key is definitely going to be a really distinct visual style, which is, I feel like exploration in the visual style of a film is becoming sort of less and less a priority in cinematography these days. You know, the ingraining of everything. I would love to see this really play with color the way that the book itself does. So if they get a really good cinematographer on it, and I think you're right, the noir angle would be good. There's so much close-up work in the book that I think you would have to keep around from in my vision of what this would look like as like a movie or a TV show.
Yeah, there's one spread that made me think of a TV show. I'm going to share my screen so you can see it, but I'll put a image in the chapters. And this is in the...
I really liked this spread.
Yeah, in the issue about the woman whose son died in a school shooting and how she turned to crisis actor conspiracy theories to find comfort in a world where her son was maybe still alive. It's specifically these last 3 panels on the page where Ruby, Cole's partner, is like choking her out. Mm-hmm. And if you look at her face just progressively through those panels, and then when she's like, for the love of God, Cole, you need to shut the fuck up. Mm-hmm. Like, that's television.
Yeah.
Like, that is, like, I can see that scene happening right now.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, color. I'm just looking. I've been flipping through. Mm-hmm. I got mine from the library.
Nice. I let AC borrow mine like 6 months ago, and I didn't remember that when we started this, so I'm looking at it online.
The color work is insane. Like, this is another one where the color is so integral and so good. I talked a lot about color in our last episode, in our On a Sunbeam episode. It continues to be important here.
I think it's really cool that we've talked about color on 2 books. We talked about it in the Nightwing episode. We've talked about it in these 2 books, in specifically for works where the person doing the color is also the person doing the line art. Yeah. Is also the person doing the painting in this case, right? Where especially in American comics,
those
it's very common.
Jobs, yeah.
Those are often 2 separate jobs. Now, this is an Image book specifically, so it's a creator-owned piece of work, which often means the teams are smaller because it's difficult to pay a lot of people in a creator-owned project. Mm-hmm. But I do think it's notable that we are interested in these colors, even when there's not like an assigned colorist for this piece.
Yeah.
Do you have much experience with like X-Files or anything like that?
I don't. You would think. I think I've come off as an X-Files girly, perhaps, because I think if I watched the X-Files, I believe I would probably have a deep affinity for it. But I just haven't gotten around to it. I mean, I'm a Columbo person. Famously Columbo girly. I think the closest I get to sort of an X-Files type is I'm a huge fan of the podcast The Magnus Archives, which is a narrative horror podcast that in the early seasons goes very hard on sort of the investigative and sort of mystery of the week style of storytelling. But that's about it.
Yeah. My experience with the X-Files is mostly watching it when I was growing up when my dad would watch it.
Oh.
Because I was just like a little too young, but also even when I was not too young, I was scared easily. So it's mostly like watching it with him when it was one that was like not super scary, or like catching it on TV later as an adult. But enough that I'm like familiar with the structure, right? And this is very much like a modern day X-Files. It's just instead of like grays and supernatural stuff, we're dealing with like politics and lying and murder.
My biggest experience with X-Files was in college. I had a friend who was deep into the X-Files, and we watched a couple of episodes sort of on in the background when we had sort of late night animation school, working on our projects, like all flipping through our papers and putting our pencils down on our light boards with Mulder and Scully in the background. But obviously I didn't absorb a lot from that because I was splitting my attention. She was also she was just deeply invested in the relationship of Mulder and Scully, just like as 2 characters pinging off of each other, more than the structure narratively of the show and what it was about.
That was me and Bones and Booth.
That makes sense. I've heard this about Bones.
I watched a lot of Bones. Yeah.
I was The Mentalist. You ever watched The Mentalist?
Yeah.
I was big on The Mentalist, Patrick Jane.
I'm mostly aware of that show because of Remap or previously Waypoint. They talked about it on Waypoint for a long time.
Yeah, I think Rob Zachney is a big Mentalist fan.
Yeah. Chill dude. I got to meet him at PAX.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. My husband and him talked about Bogota for like 20 minutes.
I love that. That rules.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just, it's giving me these vibes without any of like like Ruby and Cole have a dynamic, but it's not anything.
Right, yeah.
The Mulder and Scully dynamic, right?
Yeah, that is kind of an interesting thing that is different here compared to an X-Files, or like you said, like a Bones sort of, where a lot of the sort of emotional core of that comes from interpersonal relationships within the organization itself, like within the workplace. And here we get, there is a relationship in that they interact with each other and have sort of what I might call a tenuous friendship, or at least they care about each other in a coworker way, but it feels much more professional here, which is interesting and different for sort of the usual genre space, the usual suspects in this genre space.
It's funny, I was scrolling through issue 5 because there's some stuff in there that's some of my favorite in the book, and I saw the other puking scene.
There it is. And just the way it goes into the sink, I don't know. And the way it's on his chin in the next panel.
Oh my God, it looks so sloppy.
Yeah, it's not that I know a lot about the texture of puke, but it just doesn't seem like it's quite gotten all the way there.
Yeah. I would say the number one thing I remember in this book after the first time I read it was the first page of issue 5, the Denver International Airport
big
opening
horse.
page.
The big horse. It's the only thing I know about the Denver International Airport is the big fucked up blue demon horse.
Yeah, I saw that page. I am like the first time I remember, I immediately took a picture of it and put it on Blue Sky because I was like, what the fuck? Like, this is incredible. This is a comic book.
It doesn't. The thing is, that's a really good point, is that it doesn't feel like a comic book.
Yeah, they did so much work for this art that you don't see done definitely not in the big two, right? In DC and Marvel. You're not seeing this kind of thing often, I would say, in the big two. There are some books occasionally, once in a while, that are doing really stellar stuff. But like this level of detail on this Lucifer page, like, I don't know, one of my favorite artists that works for Marvel oftentimes is Phil Noto. And he does, like, his pages are painted, right? And they can be really gorgeous, but they're not this. They're not this level of craft.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on with texture in this art. I would be so curious to know how much of it was done with physical media versus how much of it is done digitally. Is the painting done digitally? Is the painting done physically? I can tell that there's also a lot of collage work across this, whether it is sort of photo bashing or digital collage, or whether it is collage done physically with like layering paper. I would be so interested to see sort of what these pages look like in process.
Yeah. James said that when they were trying to figure out like the look of the book, all he did was take that picture of JFK that's on the front of the book, flip it upside down, and then put X's on the eyes. And he was like, this. And that's the cover of the book.
It is the cover of the book. This is what it is.
Yeah, they were like trying to figure it out, and he was like looking at like conspiracy stuff, and he was like, here. And then they just put graphic design around it, and like, you know, Martin took his pass on it, and that's the design style they went with. I also just think it's interesting how Martin Simmonds gets to just explore. He's trying different styles, sometimes per issue, right?
Yes.
A thing this book likes to do is to use a different art style to show that something is in a different time period.
A little bit like we talked about in the Nightwing episode.
Yeah, exactly like that. Even like in the first issue, the colors change. It's not totally a different art style, but the colors change just to show you that we're looking back on a moment that Cole had like 2 days ago.
Yeah,
right?
The epilogue feels very different too.
And they do a lot of that. Eventually, the book shows you Cole's history with the Satanic Panic, and you know we see him as a kid and him interacting with some characters that are, you know, important going forward. And that looks like a 60s cartoon. I mean, it's an 80s story, but yeah, it is kind of drawn like a 60s cartoon. It's really cool. I love that they're trying different things. I think more artists do get involved later on, but it's mostly Martin Simmonds.
Yeah, I'm just flipping through looking at this shit. It's good.
It's a good book to look at.
It's a good book to look at. I was totally drawn in, like spending a bunch of time on every page as I was reading this. There's a lot in the style here that reminds me of J.C. Leyendecker. Do you know anything about J.C. Leyendecker?
No.
He did a lot of advertisement paintings in sort of the teens and 20s in the 1900s. Sounds very silly to say it like that, but I grabbed a couple of examples.
Oh, I see it. I just searched his name and I see it.
Yeah, specifically a lot of his rougher stuff. He has a lot of we have a lot of his stuff that is studies of smaller individual pieces of bigger illustrations that he ended up doing, but also some sketches, some rougher paintings and things. I'm grabbing some examples that I got.
I'm looking at golfer lighting a cigarette. I just dropped it in our chat. Oh, yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, was he doing collage, or is this all drawn and painted?
This is, as far as I know, all drawn and painted, but I think he did a thing that I like to do as well, where he worked on darker paper and then would fill in the backgrounds with white that ended up making it look like it was stuff that was cut out because of the way that the contrast worked and sort of the big broad brush strokes. Leyendecker is an all-timer. And this is what I'm talking about with the way that he would do these. These are all like studies of what would end up being a finished piece, but there's so much life in these like quick paintings that he would do in these like individual small pieces. And the way that they were executed is more refined than what ends up being in the Department of Truth. All of this ends up being cleaner, I think, than what's in Department of Truth. But there was something about it that gave me that same feeling that looking at Leyendecker does, which is just like, man, I love like the way that shadows feel in this.
Yeah, yeah. I also love that they're willing to use panels in here for mood. Mm-hmm. There's a page, it's right after the Lucifer page, so right at the beginning of issue 5, and it's doing so much of everything we've talked about in the last 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. If you look at the top 2 panels on that page, you're getting what I actually don't know. It looks like it's collage that's then drawn over.
Yeah, it looks to me like maybe sketches of, it's at least evoking the idea of individual sketches of people that have been cut out and sort of pasted into the environment and then drawn over to make the environment and the people look like they're together.
Yeah, very Paper Mario.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is a Paper Mario aspect.
But then that middle panel,
that's vibes.
It's just vibes. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be like a network below the turnstile, right? But it's just like black and gold paint and like a distressed overlay.
Yeah, texture. It's all texture and the implication of a thing without any of it actually feeling like a thing itself.
Yeah, I do think it's interesting also how this gets more defined as we go down deeper into like the underground that she's dropping into.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this stuff at the top of the page feels so much like it is a first pass instead of being sort of the final panels, and then it becomes cleaner and more like what the rest of the book looks like as we get down to Ruby. That's Ruby, right? That's Ruby doing shit.
I think that's Ruby.
Yeah.
And we also see our first reptilian.
I like the way the reptilian looks. I really like the way that it seems to have teeth drawn maybe in whiteout on top of the
yeah, I didn't even notice
painting.
That. Yeah.
Really good.
I also I was looking at this earlier and I think it looks like there's maybe like scotch tape over it.
Yeah, it looks like panels, again, sort of like panels that were cut out and repasted. A lot of this, I suppose, is evoking like the cultural imaginary of the serial killer letter that is made out of pasted words from magazines with sort of these collage moments and these bits where there's the woman screaming at the end of the school shooting story. Has that feeling too of like a piece of paper that's been sliced up and then patched back together.
Yeah, especially when they're doing like big like statement pieces that include like politicians. Mm-hmm. They will do this thing where they like paste a smiling mouth with all the teeth showing over on top of the face of somebody.
I don't like it. Complimentary.
Yeah, it's creepy as shit, but it's really good. It's really good work.
While we're talking about the art, I did have 2 sort of minor layout gripes. I think generally the layout in this is really good. There were a couple of times where the pages ended up meaning to be read all the way from the top of the left page to the top of the right page instead of going down the whole left page and then moving on to the right page. And there wasn't really anything signaling that for me, at least in like this form of the book. And so I got a little lost sometimes when trying to read dialogue.
I find that American comics generally have this problem a lot. This is a thing that I have gripes about, and like digital has solved this to an extent.
Right, because then it will just format it as a 2-page spread.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm with you. When I'm reading a trade, like in paper, I find that American comics can struggle with layouts, and I end up reading word balloons in the wrong order.
Yeah, because it wouldn't be a problem if they, I don't know how they would broadcast it, but it's interesting that they just like, sometimes they're like, no, we're just going to go all the way across on this one. And nobody did. How do anybody know? It's a secret. How's the reader supposed to know? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The one right before the pancake scene is the one that I struggled with this read.
Yes.
Because it is laid out as if you're supposed to read it like left page, left, right, top, bottom,
that was
right
the
page,
first.
left,
that
right,
was the
top,
first
bottom.
time that I noticed it. Yeah, was this
and
one?
It's
here.
not. It's 2 pages, left to right, top to bottom, all together.
And then I did start to notice that there tends to be on those pages when you're supposed to read it like that, some part of it will be, instead of a panel, it will be taking up all the way to the edge of each side of the page. Like this bottom one here is like one big thing. But if you're not looking out for that specifically, which is like a very specific piece of sort of layout knowledge to be leveraging, then you're not going to catch it.
Yeah, I've had to train myself to look for it on the top of that page you're calling out where they're sitting at the diner. The thing that got me here was that panel in the center. If a panel crosses, I often assume that it's going to be. And that's just like training of reading comics constantly for 2 years in a row.
Yeah, I wonder if it is something sort of like what I keep coming back to, the black gutters in manga, where it's just like something that once you've read enough of it, you start to train yourself to see it. And so you catch it more often, like you said. Yeah. And I just don't have the sort of history with them. The other thing with the layout is that there's some places where they do typography for sound effects. And I usually love typography for sound effects, but the way that this whole thing looks, it just ends up feeling very sort of strange and pasted on, especially when it's clearly like a font. I think if they did it, if it was sort of part of the painting process, if it had been painted on, then the sound effects wouldn't stick out so much. It's also that they only do it a couple of times. It's actually, again, the barfing scene, the first barfing scene when Cole is puking on the plane. It says like blurg or something.
Scout just hates the barfing.
I'm sorry. I'm a barf hater. And then the other one where it really stuck out was the use of the bang, the word bang on the page where we're watching Lee Harvey Oswald watch Cole shoot the 2 journalists.
Yes.
Which is such a strong, like, visual. The way that it goes dark and then it's bright as the muzzle goes off, and then it's dark again and then it's bright again for the 2 bullets is so good. I just think we don't even need the bangs there. I understand the idea behind having them, but I don't think that they're really serving a purpose as much as... I don't think they're serving enough of a purpose for them to be there for me. I think I would have liked the page better if they weren't there.
Yeah, especially because that, like, I'm imagining this page without those, and you get the dark light panels with Oswald at the bottom. And like, I think you could tell the same story with just the lighting.
I think you would know. Yeah, with just the lighting. You don't need the sound effect there.
Yeah. I don't know. They're probably smarter than me. They probably tried that. Who knows?
It could be.
This made me want, and I think I've said this on multiple episodes, I just got to put it on the list. This made me want really to get you to read Angela Asgard's Assassin, which is a Marvel book. And the layouts that they're doing in that book are occasionally just wild. And at the same time, it was the first like American comic that I really had read since I was a teenager and found it somewhat difficult to follow because I jumped into something that expected me to know the visual language that I didn't know yet.
Yeah, I would definitely be interested in seeing that.
I will put this in the show notes or drop it in Discord, but I'll just give you an example. Yeah, check out your podcast app and you should be able to see this if you have chapter images. But this page was wild for me to try and read.
Oh, yeah. It's
cool. Not that crazy, but like for your first, comic
No, I
book,
see what you mean because it is, it's following all of the text boxes here are following the paneling instead of following the natural progression that you might normally see. So the way that it sort of arcs around the main character portrait here with all of these individual panels. Wow, very cool, very cool.
Yeah, I gotta put it on the list. Maybe we'll read that book someday.
Add it to the list. To the list, Vicky.
Put it on the list. I see you had some Fashion Corner thoughts, and I had these exact same thoughts reading this book.
Yes, in honor of Robin, who is not here today, I had to pick up the Fashion Corner torch. I have to call out the extremely embarrassing cowboy shirt that Cole's husband, Maddie, is wearing.
I love it. I think it's cute. It very much reads DC gay to me, which I think is part of it. It really, as you see that and you're like, yeah, only a gay man would do that. And then there's cute. The other shirt.
And then, there's just, this is generally a very serious book, I would say.
Yeah.
And I'm reading along and we get to this character that's wearing a t-shirt that says Fart Goblin. And I'm going, Fart Goblin? Really? We're taking that swing?
Yeah. Well, in 2 pages, you meet, I don't remember his name. We'll call him Fart Goblin. He's the guy who like watches like right-wing television in the basement of the Department of Truth.
Yeah.
And then the next page, you meet the guy who's still wearing a tinfoil hat.
Yeah. I do like Mr. Tinfoil Hat. Yeah, Fart Goblin was unfortunate. One of the unfortunate, I think he's a bit of a bad faith caricature. I don't think he's as bad as the other thing that really stuck out to me was there's one line in the school shooter one where it specifically says that this woman who's mourning her son, one night she saw an obese man in a tracksuit standing across the street from her house. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Okay. We're going to get into this really quick.
Okay.
A thing I found researching James Tynion is that James Tynion used to be very large and has very publicly, and it mirrors his coming out, like stages of coming out as queer, at least in his career necessarily. He said he's been out in some form since he was a teenager. He lost a ton of weight and the way he talks about that stuff online is interesting. I don't know. I can't believe we're getting into this on the podcast. I am at the point with like weight loss and stuff where I'm like, sometimes I can't even hear about it. Sometimes I don't want to talk about it. And I'm also at the point where like, for me, I have ways that I think about it and they're mostly like, I don't care for me personally. But also, like, if you do, and that's the thing you want to do, great. That's your body. That's awesome. Go for it. And I think the way that he talks about weight loss sometimes, it's clear to me that he thought down on himself because of the size of his body in the past. And I think some of that is coming through in this book.
Yeah, I think it is. It feels to me very much there is a tendency that comes from the societal imaginary of obesity and of fatness that like there is a vilification of it. This is not the worst example I've ever seen of it, like, to be clear.
Yeah.
But those two things stuck out to me, like Mr. Fart Goblin shirt.
Yeah.
First of all, he's brought a chocolate chip pancake, which in a real situation, if a human being wanted a chocolate chip pancake and they were fat, I wouldn't think anything of it. But when it is in a narrative and it is framed like this, it is saying something.
Yeah.
And also, like, he makes a joke about being fat, and it feels like it's trying to lampshade like the caricature of this character in here.
Yeah, I'm with you. It doesn't feel as bad as some other interpretations. I will really never get over the fat Thor in the Marvel movies.
I barely know about that, and what I know about it is I don't want to know about anymore. I don't want to know any more than I know.
It's usually the thing that I notice in media. And in this case, the thought I remember having was, really, do we have to give a fat guy a chocolate chip pancake?
Yeah, exactly.
The rest of it, I was like, I don't know, this feels like a stock character. It's maybe not the best work in the book, but you know.
Yeah, at least he doesn't show up a lot, so you can't, like, they can't step in it a lot with him, but also the fact that he only shows up for, like, that one bit makes it almost feel worse in some ways, because it does feel like it just ends up being a bit thing more than anything, you know?
Yeah, that's fair.
The basement guy. Great shirt, though. Fart Goblin, great shirt.
We do like the Fart Goblin shirt.
There were a lot of things in here that like, the instinct for me was to be like, ooh, this feels like it could be, in bad faith caricature territory. But then I'm like, with a lot of the conspiracy theorists, there's stuff in there that I'm like, I don't like how this feels. And then I'm like, but I've literally seen it. It's
yeah, exactly. I know these people.
It's not exaggerating. I've seen it happening, which is I think the moments where it's like, ooh, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I am not usually a James Tynion fan. I find James Tynion writes a lot of horror, but also does the phrase queer edgelord mean anything? Like, that's the vibe that I get from the things that he writes. He's trying to write.
I don't know that I've heard that specifically, but it evokes something very. The phrase brings something to mind for me, for sure.
Yeah. He's trying to gross you out, but like also remind you that his cast is super diverse. Like, that's kind of his MO generally as a comics writer. And we read World Tree, which is another one and in the TWG Comics Club. And I hated that book. It was doing a lot of really cool visual stuff too. I forget who the artist is on that book, but it's like, man, isn't this really fucked up? Like, this is so fucked up, man. Right. And it didn't feel like it was in service of anything interesting to me. Whereas like this book is real fucked up, man. Isn't it pretty fucked up? But then it's also like, hey, this is the real world. Like, except for the part where like we can imagine things to be true. Like, this is basically what's happening outside. And I think that layer is interesting to me. I also just admire someone in comics like trying to directly take on the problems of the day. But,
it's I really admire it for clearly trying to tackle something that is weighing deeply on the minds of many in America, in many places, but I think especially in America in the year 2025, all of this feels very close. Yeah. And I think sometimes it works for me. I think sometimes it doesn't. I can't articulate exactly the ways that it doesn't work for me, except maybe it is just that it feels like it's telling me, it is sort of sometimes just repeating, it is very ripped from the headlines in a lot of ways.
Telling you what you already know.
Telling you what you already know and not necessarily adding additional thoughts to it. So, and when it does add additional thoughts to it, I think is when the moments that it shines. And sometimes I feel like, yeah, man, oof. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. This is why I actually think the stuff that works for me is like the Cole and Maddie stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, that's the things, and Cole's general whole vibe and like interpersonal narrative. That's the stuff that is pulling me through the book.
Yeah. Cole's reaction to the things that are happening around him work for me so much better than the stuff that is just sort of working play by play through conspiracy theories and, what it could mean if they could be made real by thought and stuff, that kind of thing.
Yeah. In the second volume, there's this multiple issue story about a guy who saw Bigfoot one time and spent the rest of his life ruining his life by hunting for Bigfoot. And it's like written as a letter to his son. It does a thing I hate in comics where it's actually mostly text. I'm like, this is a comic book. I need it to be a comic book. But the story itself is interesting. And I think the moments where it leans on the characters are the moments where this book really shines. Generally, like throughout everything I've read. Eventually we get introduced to like the Ministry of Lies, the like Russian counterpart, and their relationship to Black Hat, which is
sorry, the Department of Truth and the Ministry of Lies just really got me.
Yep, I saw it happening live. But like those stories end up being about the leaders of those groups and about the people that move between those groups and things. And that stuff is really cool. It's very like standard espionage, like spy film kind of stuff.
Right.
But I love that. I love a spy film.
Hell yeah. Oh, I'm just imagining you could, the incredible takedown that like a 12-year-old could do on the playground of like, well, you know, I work at the Department of Truth, man, and you're in the Ministry of Lies.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you have anything else to add to this? I think we've covered a lot.
Yeah, I think I've said all I had to say about this one.
Yeah, I think it's a really good book. I really enjoy it. I was glad to read it, I think, like a third time.
I would be interested in, I think I might try and pick up some more volumes and get a little deeper into it. I am compelled.
Yeah. I will say volume 2 is different in that it's like, it's got some stuff that continues on this story, but it is mostly that sort of Bigfoot story. And then 3 and 4 are really a continuation. And like I said, the story is still ongoing. I believe volume 6 comes out in October, but they're doing it issue by issue right now if you're interested in picking up the rest. So it's out there. It's not quite done yet, but it should be soon.
Cool.
As far as further reading, James Tynion IV and Martin Simmonds have recently worked on another book as well. It is Universal Monsters Dracula. It is also an Image comic, and there is basically a whole series that they're doing of Universal Monsters. I think Invisible Man just came out the other day.
Yeah, I've seen some pages from this, like out of context. I didn't realize that it was this team.
Yeah, it looks very pretty. I don't know that I care enough about Dracula or Universal Monsters at all to read it. But I don't know. I might flip through it on Hoopla. But if you like this team, then it might be worth checking out. Also, this is I just basing it purely off of hype when I like talk about comics with people. I think probably James Tynion's most popular book, Something is Killing the Children. Obviously, some content warnings there.
Well, how could he write something about something killing the children?
There's literally a character in this book that is like trying to eat a baby. So yeah, Something's Killing the Children is really popular. It looks like the opposite of something I would be interested in, but if you're really into horror and you end up liking the writing that James does here, and that's with a completely different creative team. One that I'm interested in reading is Talon. Talon originated as what's called backups. Are you aware of the concept of backups?
No, fill me in.
They're basically like short stories at the end of a regular issue of comic books.
Oh.
So they might be like 1 or 2 pages. They might be 5 or 6 pages. But Talon was originally a backup story during the Court of Owls run of Batman.
Oh, I've heard of Court of Owls.
Yeah, I've read Court of Owls in the DC Compact form, and it's really good. The backups aren't in there, but James Tynion did Talon, which was about someone trying to escape the Court of Owls. So I want to finish Scott Snyder's Batman run first, and then I want to read Talon. Contrary to my normal line of stop doing homework, I'm going to do the homework for this one. A book that I really enjoyed the first issue of and haven't read a ton of yet, I think there's only 3 issues, but I haven't caught up, is new. It's by James, and it's Exquisite Corpses. This is a story about basic like a most dangerous game kind of thing where every year, like I believe it's 13. I think it's the original 13 colonies. I think they each drop a killer in a small town in America, and it's all the wealthiest families from those places. And then there's some kind of competition. I don't remember the details, but I liked the first issue.
Kind of a fucked up Hunger Game, as though Hunger Games wasn't already fucked up.
Yeah, fucks up Hunger Games is really what it is.
Hunger Games, but more fucked up. It's so fucked up, guys. You wouldn't even believe it.
And I do want to check out that You're Wrong About episode. Did you say it was on Michelle Remembers?
Yeah, it's actually a 5-episode sort of mini series that they did, a book club. I believe this was during lockdown in 2020, where they went through Michelle Remembers, which is a book that sparked a lot of what ended up becoming the Satanic Panic, and is really interesting about the most bizarre relationship that a therapist and a patient have ever had. Maybe like one of the most bizarre things that you'll hear about. Really, really interesting, and goes a lot into the like I talked about at the top, sort of suggestion becoming reality for people, if not literally, then in this case, like sort of metaphysically almost, or like psychically becoming real.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff. Interesting stuff.
I just actually, to go back to the book, I just read in your notes a thing we didn't pick up, which is, I know what a fucking tulpa is, Cole. Jesus.
that was probably my favorite line in the book.
There's so many good one-liners in this book.
Tulpa is cool. It gave me very, yes, the time knife. We've all heard about it, which is from the Good Place, I believe, is a bit from The Good Place.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that, then we'll take it to the back matter. In Sequence is a member of The Worst Garbage. You can find more about The Worst Garbage at theworstgarbage.online. We got a bunch of new podcasts, or we have a bunch of podcasts, including a new one, The Legend of Podcast Trails Through Trails, with my Flow State collaborator, Lex, and the other Matt. who hosts that show. If you're into the Trails games, or you want to be, it's a good podcast. I got to get into the Trails games and then listen to that podcast. I'm playing the demo for the remake of the first one right now, so we'll see how deep I get. I'm enjoying it. It hasn't like gripped me yet. Yeah, a friend of the show, AJ, has said to me, "Scout, you have to play Trails," on multiple occasions, and I'm like, okay. I have to do it. It does seem like you would enjoy Trails. I don't know that there's as many pathetic gays in there, but I hear that there's some. I can find a pathetic gay wherever I go. Scout, do you have anything to plug today? You can find me online on Blue Sky and Tumblr at Humble Goat. You can see the art that I do, including our podcast cover art, on scoutwilkinson.myportfolio.com. And my other podcast that I do with our other panelist, who could not be here today, Jillian, is called Paws and Claws. That's on the TWG network as well. And we are about to go on a 1-month hiatus. So this is a great time to catch up on some episodes while you wait for season 8 to start at the end of September. And I hear you sometimes talk about manga there. Specifically, there was a Dick Fight Island arc. There was a Dick Fight Island arc. Yes, we did. I think it was over 2 episodes we talked about Dick Fight Island. In the most recent episode, that will be well up by the time this is up. Actually, I'm doing math in my head. The hiatus will be over by the time this episode comes out. So I don't know if I can just say any of that. That's fine. In that episode, I had a brief diversion about Squall Leonhardt, who is not gay, but is pathetic. And also, there's some deep Scout lore in that episode about my childhood. I have a couple Squall magic cards because they did that Final Fantasy set. I love that. Squall is my son, who I love, and I must care for him. I must squeeze him. Your son's gone pretty far. A lot of people know his name. He has. I'm very proud of him. He's really made something. He's made a name for himself. As for me, I will plug right now my YouTube channel. shortest version of this story, so they started over on YouTube. And if you want to check out my essays about games and also my developer interviews, you can go to youtube.com/@flowstatecrit and check those out. There's also a playlist on there that links back to all my old videos on the old channel, so you can see everything that I've made. It was scary moving channels, but
congrats on your rebirth.
Thank you. It has been done and it is going well. And I told you I talked to Brendan earlier, but I re-recorded a Wavelengths episode where we talked a lot about it. It was really cool.
Hell yeah.
But thank you all so much for listening. And if you do nothing else, go get a comic book from your local library. They would love to have you. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have one of those or you just can't get there, check out a local comic shop. They definitely need your support as well. And we'll talk to you next time.
TWG, the worst garbage.online.